It was stationary, this thing, and it was bright silver in colour, and it had a dome. A dome. It was tilted to sort of... I could see the occupants in it.
I've always been fascinated by aliens, because even as a kid I thought, yo, the universe is massive, it's forever expanding. Out of all the planets with their own solar systems, what are the chances that Earth is the only joint with life on it? There's gotta be something out there. And most of my homies, to an extent, agree, like, yeah, there's gotta be. But when you start talking about UFOs and alien sightings, that's when you start losing some peeps. Like, oh no, bro. And when you take it to the next level and bring up alien abductions, everybody's like, nah, that's just too out there, man. So I thought it would be fun to do up a deep dive to shine a light on the decades of ordinary people claiming they were taken. We're gonna look at each case and ask ourselves, are they being delusional? Is it a misunderstanding? Is it like a mental illness thing? Are they trolling? Are they doing it for clout? Or is there something strange and low-key unexplainable going on? So, it's 1953. In the UK, Queen Elizabeth II has been crowned. Joseph Stalin has kicked the bucket. We've transitioned from black and white to the first color TVs. Patty Page's The Doggy in the Window is doing bits on the radio.
How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggly tail.
It's also during this year, on November 11th, that two electrical engineers, Karl Hunrath and Wilbur Wilkinson, rented a small plane, took off, and seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. An extensive search was carried out, and it yielded zero results. No plane, no bodies, nada. Some people were like, hey, the plane crashed and we just can't find it. It be like that sometimes. Some people were like, yo, they flew to Mexico, started new lives or whatever. But some people were convinced it was aliens. Now you're probably thinking, why jump to aliens? Why would someone even think that? Well, here's the thing. Our boys Karl and Wilbur were obsessed with aliens and UFOs. Karl was convinced that he was communicating with a race of aliens on his radio. Apparently they were called the Mazarians. He told Wilbur one of their UFOs had landed close to LA, and the plan was they'd go link up with the UFO and the aliens would take him to their home planet of Mesa. So, them vanishing without a trace like that made some people go, hey, the Mazarians took them. In an article published in the Los Angeles Mirror at the time, Wilbur's wife went into more detail, saying her husband had tape recordings of conversations that he'd had with the aliens. Yo, I love how casually they mentioned this in the article, bro. If I was a reporter covering this case, I'd be like, yo, let's go to your man's office. Let's go through his stuff. Let's find these tapes. Okay, I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to listen to these conversations. What are we doing? Apparently, one of the bres he was chatting to was Prince Regs from the planet Mesa. She also goes on to share images of drawings that were on Wilbur's wall, symbols from the aliens. They had 3 children and they moved to California because Karl had convinced them that he could take him to one of the Mazarians' flying saucer. So wifey's convinced that he was abducted by these aliens. But to me, it kind of sounds like he went willingly. Like, abducted where? My man moved cities to get closer to these aliens. You know what I'm saying? He got into a plane with his boy to go to this UFO. I wouldn't use the word abducted. You know what I'm saying? Like, he volunteered. Another theory is low-key supported by something she actually touches on in this article. She goes, they had a huge argument the night before he disappeared. So some peeps are like, yo, this man just wanted to get away from his wife and start a new life or whatever. But I don't know, man. That feels like an incredible length to go to just to get away from wifey. Now, based on what we know, Karl was not an experienced pilot, and the plane only had 3 hours of fuel in it. So maybe they landed the joint somewhere, or they crashed in the mountains. But either way, they must have had a lot of belief in the existence of these aliens and the UFO. Because imagine your boy telling you, hey man, I'm not the best pilot in the world, okay? We don't have a lot of fuel in this plane, but we're going to fly to the location where the UFO landed and they'll take us to that planet. And you're like, I bet, let's do it. That's the level of trust and friendship that I want to have, okay? Like, I can picture these two men giddy in the plane, talking about what they'll do when they see the aliens face to face, talking about their trip to Mesa and when they get there and what it will look like. I can see them happy and euphoric in this plane, believing that they're going to this new planet. Just two buddies united by their belief, flying off into the unknown. Now we're in 1957, baby. Elvis Presley's dominating the airwaves. Rock and roll is rock and rolling. Teenagers are developing a distinct look and vibe. Rebellion is in the air. We're in Brazil, where a 23-year-old farmer named Antonio Vilas-Boas is in the fields. It's October the 15th. He's working at night because the heat is unbearable during the day. So it's nighttime. He's plowing the fields and he sees what he describes as a red star in the night sky. The star starts getting closer and closer until it's close enough for him to make out what it is. So my man's looking at this egg-shaped spaceship with a red light at the front and a smaller rotating dome-like structure on top. He's watching this, frozen in fear. 3 leg-like things extend out of the ship as it lands in the field. Antonio's like, nah. He turns around and dips. He jumps in his tractor, his heart's pounding, he's driving away, but then the engine dies on him, bro. It dies. So he gets out the tractor, he's on foot now, running as fast as his legs can carry him. But I guess it's not fast enough, bro, because he gets grabbed from behind. The alien's like 5 foot tall. Shout out to all the short kings out there, you know what I'm saying? He's rocking like a gray outfit and a helmet, and he can see the eyes through the thing. They're tiny and blue. And he's speaking to him, but he doesn't understand what he's saying. It's not a language he's heard before. It's like little yelps. Antonio's like, get off me, man, get off me. He's trying to escape, but then 3 others rock up and grips him up. He's like, yo! They drag him into the ship. They rip off his clothes and smear his body with this weird gel-like substance. So he's in this room. They use this contraption to take blood samples from his chin. They take him into another room and just dump him there. He's in there solo, just alone with his thoughts, just freaking out. They leave him in there for like an hour, bro. Then this gas gets pumped into the room. He's trying not to breathe it in. He's freaking out. He immediately gets sick. He's hurling chunks all over the place. And then one of the aliens enters the room. But this time it's a female alien. Similar height to the other ones. But yo, she has like long white hair, huge cat-like blue eyes. So just like Captain James T. Kirk, just like Star-Lord from the Guardians of the Galaxy, he decides to engage in some extraterrestrial smashing, okay? Twice. When they're done, she rubs her stomach, smiles, and points up. Antonio's thinking this means she's pregnant with his kid and she's letting him know that she's gonna raise the kid on her planet. During his interview with Dr. Olavo Teixeira, Antonio said he was low-key ticked off because he felt like she seemed relieved that the whole thing was over. Okay? Hey, maybe our boy Antonio didn't lay down the pipe like he was supposed to. Maybe he didn't represent. Because, yo, listen, it's a lot of pressure, okay? You are representing every guy on planet Earth. Like, if I was in his position, I'd want to make sure that when she goes back to her planet, she's like, yo, girls, listen, those Earth boys go hard, okay? I'd want to be the reason alien abductions go up. Like, I'd want the other female aliens to be like, yo, we need to go to Earth. Them boys are freaky. Antonio said he felt a little used, you know. After the whole thing, they gave him back his clothes. They gave him a little tour of the ship. He tried to steal like a little clock-like device so he could show people on Earth as proof of what went down, but he got busted. They were like, nah, put that back, my boy. They're looking at each other like, yo, you gotta keep an eye on these Earthlings, man. They be stealing stuff. They took him back home. He checked the time and realized he'd been gone for 4 hours. Now, listen, when I was doing my research, I was a bit like, yeah, sure, bro. They abducted you just so you could hook up with a banging alien chick. Yeah, that makes sense. But here's the weird thing, okay? When he came back, he claimed he was having headaches, okay? He had lesions on his skin, he felt nauseous, and when he got medically examined by a doctor from the National School of Medicine of Brazil, they found he had been exposed to an unusually large dose of radiation. Yo, listen. I'm not saying I'm 100% like a believer or whatever, but how do you explain a farmer in Brazil being exposed to a large dose of radiation to the point where he was suffering from radiation sickness? It's a bit weird, no? Like, it's a bit Twilight Zone, you know? Like, you know? And my man stuck to his story. He got married, he had 4 kids, and he stuck to his story till the day he died in 1991. Alright, so now we're in 1961, baby. Audrey Hepburn's on a big screen in Breakfast at Tiffany's. John F. Kennedy's the new U.S. president.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Stand By Me's on the radio, and we get another notable alien abduction story. This time by Barney and Betty Hill. Now, these guys were pioneers. They were an interracial couple during a time when there was a lot of racial tension and civil unrest. He was a World War II vet and worked for the Postal Service. Betty was a social worker. They were both members of the NAACP, respected members of their community, not the kind of peeps you'd expect to make stuff up. So the story goes, it's around 10:30 p.m., September 19th. They're driving home from their vacation in Montreal. Good vibes. Betty notices this bright light in the sky. She's thinking, hey, it's not that deep, it's just a falling star. But then she notices it's not falling, it's moving upwards. She looks through her binoculars and sees a weird-shaped, multicolored ship moving across the moon. Barney's like, hey, let me check it out. He's being rational. He's like, yo, it's a plane. It's just a commercial airliner heading to Montreal. But then, boom, it swiftly flies towards him. So now he's thinking, yo, this ain't no plane. They carry on driving super slowly so they can carry on observing this thing. At one point, it flies over a restaurant near a mountain cliff. So now they've got a reference of how big this thing is. We're talking about 12 meters or, 40 feet long. Multicolored, rotating, silently moving through the night. And then it moved towards their whip. Barney hits the brakes, stopping in the middle of the highway. The ship silently hovered above their car. Barney stepped out the car, looked through the binoculars, and saw a bunch of humanoid figures about 8 to 11 looking out the ship's window, looking directly at him. Then all of them, except for one, moved to the back of the ship. The one dude just stood there looking at him. A long structure slowly descended from the ship. Barney was like, hell nah, they finna abduct me. So he dipped back into the car and stepped on it. As they were speeding away, they both heard a weird beeping sound. They felt drowsy and weird. And when they woke up, they were in a different location. And check this out. It's October 21. So they've got like almost a month of time unaccounted for. When they got back to the crib, Betty noticed that her dress was torn up and there was this pink powder-like substance on it, which over the years, 5 different labs and a bunch of scientists have examined with nothing conclusive coming up. They got in touch with the U.S. Air Force. They were interviewed for hours, and they linked up with Benjamin Simon, a neurologist who used hypnotherapy to help the couple remember what happened during the missing time. So apparently when homeboy got back in the car, he felt compelled to drive through the woods, where he encountered a bunch of gray aliens with massive eyes. They took them into their spaceship and poked and prodded them, taking samples of their hair, nail clippings, blood. What's significant about this story is their description of what the aliens looked like has found its way into pop culture and has become the image we think of when we talk about aliens. Another dope thing that came up when Betty Hill was under hypnosis was the story of the star map. So, according to her, she asked the lead on the ship where they were, and he made a joke like, yo, what's the point of me telling you where we're at when it won't make any sense to you? But hey, whatever, you want to know where we are? Check this out. And he showed her a star map. Betty was able to draw the image she was shown, and in 1968, Marjorie Fish, a teacher and amateur astronomer, decided to decipher it. And she banged out this three-dimensional model, narrowing it down to Zeta Reticuli, which is 39.3 light years away from Earth, which opened up some debate among astronomers, with some backing up Marjorie's theory and some disagreeing. Hey yo, this case is super interesting to me, because you're talking about an interracial couple in the early 60s, bro, okay? Members of the NAACP. They didn't stand to gain anything by making the story up. In fact, quite the opposite. They were risking their careers. They were opening themselves up to ridicule and hate. I feel like nowadays it makes sense. You can come out and say, hey, I was abducted by aliens. And yeah, the majority of people think you're tripping, but you could go on alien conspiracy theory podcasts, you could give talks to niche groups who believe in aliens, you could gain some notoriety, and you could flip it. You could make some money out of it, get some clout. But in the 60s? Black dude, interracial couple, bringing up the whole alien abduction thing, I don't see any upsides. I don't even know why they spoke out in the first place. Because if I was Barney Hill and that genuinely happened to me and it didn't have any tangible proof, I would take that to the grave with me, okay? Because there's nothing I'd say that would convince a non-believer. And the more they clown me, the angrier I'd get. I'd be like, yo, I'm telling you the truth, bro. I'd get angrier, and the angrier I get, the crazier I look. So I would just keep it to myself. But yo, maybe that's just me, okay? Maybe that's just me. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Like if right now you're chilling, you're watching this video, and then boom, you're beamed into an alien spaceship. They run some tests on you, and they drop you back with no evidence. Would you get on social media and tell everybody? Would you tell your homies, family? Would you try and get the truth out there and risk everybody making fun of you, or would you just keep it to yourself? I genuinely want to know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Alright, so now we slide into the 1970s, baby. The Vietnam War's wrapping up. Nixon's doing Nixon things.
We seek friendly relations with all nations. Any nation can be our friend.
Bell bottoms are bell bottoming. The smell of Mary Jane's everywhere. Paranoia is high. Trust in the government is at an all-time low. Perfect conditions for some weird shizzy to go down. Enter Pat McGuire. So Pat, okay, our boy Pat is a young dude living in the States. And between 1973 and 1977, he claims he experienced multiple alien abductions. Not a one-off, not a maybe I dreamed it situation. Now, we're talking repeat visits, bro. Same aliens, same routine, rinse and repeat. Pat says these weren't like little cute green men. These were classic grays, short, skinny, oversized heads, massive black eyes. They'd come for him at night, paralyze him, lift him out of his room, and take him up to their ship. Now, here's the thing. Pat didn't just tell his homies. He didn't just write a book. He didn't just go on some late night AM radio thing. Nah, he went through medical examinations. That's right. Doctors documented puncture marks, strange scars, recurring nosebleeds, and episodes of missing time. And the craziest thing is some of these marks would appear whilst he was under observations. Like, doctors would be like, "You didn't have that yesterday." And Pat will be like, "Yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell y'all." Okay. He also described being shown images of Earth from space, apocalyptic scenes, environmental destruction, as if the aliens were giving him a warning, like, "Yo, humans, y'all doing too much. You need to chill." Now, listen, could this be sleep paralysis, trauma, psychological stress? It's absolutely possible. But here's the thing, our boy Pat was consistent with it. Over 4 years, his story never changed. Same beings, same procedures, same fear response, and unlike a lot of people who talk about abductions, Pat didn't seem like he was enjoying the attention. He wasn't doing it for the clout. If anything, he sounded tired, stressed, and low-key haunted by the whole thing. This wasn't one of those, "Hey, I met aliens and it was lit." This was like, "Yo, something keeps coming back for me and I don't know why." See, initially when I was looking up these abduction cases, every time I run into someone who claimed to have been abducted multiple times, I found it kind of sus. Like, hey, getting abducted is already crazy and weird enough. What are the chances of it happening more than once? Yeah. But the more I thought about it, it kind of makes sense. Because if I was an alien and for whatever reason I abducted a human being, I was experimenting on him, I wouldn't just do my thing and ditch him. I would come back for further observations. Maybe I'd put a tag in him. Maybe I'd put some bacteria in him from my home planet and see how he gets on. Then I'd come back, grab him, run more tests. I would keep tabs on him. So in a messed up kind of way, the whole multiple abductions thing, it kind of makes sense. And when you compare this case to Barney and Betty Hill's, it low-key lines up. Same description of the grays, same medical exams, same missing time. Coincidence? Shared delusion? What do y'all think? Let's talk about one of the most unsettling alien abduction cases ever reported. Because this one didn't happen in the desert or the woods or a farm. Nah, it happened on a pier in Mississippi at night with witnesses, police involvement, and audio recordings that still exist to this day. Alright, now context matters here because this was smack in the middle of what's now called the 1973 UFO flap, where the American South was getting absolutely lit up with UFO sightings. We're talking Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, night after night. So, on October 11th, around 8 p.m., a gas station operator calls up the sheriff going, "Hey, I just saw a strange ship with blinking colored lights flying overhead." 3 hours later, 11 p.m., two shaken men walk into the Jackson County Sheriff's office. One of them looks like he's on the verge of collapsing. These men are Charles Hickson, 45 years old, Calvin Parker, 17. They say they were fishing on a pier along the river. According to Hickson, while they were standing there, they heard a whirring mechanical sound. They looked up and saw two blue flashing lights over the water. Then they clocked it. An oval-shaped craft, about 30 to 40 feet wide, hovering just above the water. No wings, no propellers, no sound except for that low mechanical hum. Parker immediately faints. Okay? Valid reaction, to be fair. Hickson goes, 3 entities emerged from the craft. Not little grays, not humanoid in the usual way. He described them as being kinda robotic, with wrinkled gray skin, no visible necks, claw-like pincers instead of hands, slits where a mouth should be, and eyes that didn't blink. He goes on to say they moved like they were floating. The beings take both men aboard the craft. Higdon claims they were subjected to a medical examination, scanning devices, bright lights before being returned to the pier. No message, no warning, no explanation. Just drop back where they were. The deputies are skeptical, obviously. They assume it's a prank, a drunk story, something like that. They notice Higdon smells like alcohol, so they're thinking, buddy, you're drunk, go home, okay? Higdon goes, yeah, I drank after it happened to calm my nerves. The officers decide to test them, they'll trick them a little bit. They leave Higdon and Parker alone in a room. But secretly, there's a recording device. They're recording the audio, hoping to catch them contradicting each other. Instead, what they capture is two men having a genuine, frightened conversation. No laughing, no rehearsing, no, hey, let's stick to the story. Just fear. They are freaking out. Parker is audibly crying, saying he never wants to talk about it again. They are freaking out about what happened. That tape still exists and is one of the strongest pieces of circumstantial evidence in any abduction case. By the next morning, the story hits the Mississippi press. Then the Associated Press picks it up. Then it's nationwide. The men are examined at an Air Force base. No radiation exposure found. Locals demand federal investigation. So they send in Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Project Blue Book's former skeptic, James Harder, a well-known UFO researcher. They roll through and they interview Higdon and Parker separately, including under hypnosis. Both researchers publicly state that the men appear sincere. Hynek, who spent years debunking UFO cases, says, yo, this one doesn't sit right with me. From here, things get a little messy. Higdon becomes a media sensation. He does up a bunch of talk shows, he writes a book, does interviews, he claims later that he's had additional contact, which, that part hurts his credibility a little bit. Meanwhile, Calvin Parker disappears from the spotlight. He's hospitalized, traumatized, wants nothing to do with the fame. Years later, Parker says he hated the attention, says he was terrified and pressured into silence. That difference alone makes people pause. Hoaxers usually move together. It's a plan and they execute it together. These two didn't, okay? Charles Higdon dies in 2011. Calvin Parker finally tells his full story in 2008, releasing a book that explains how deeply the incident messed him up. In 2019, the city installs the official historical marker at the alleged abduction site. Let me repeat that. A city approved a plaque for an alien abduction. Parker attended the unveiling. He later said, I wish when I died I could be buried right there underneath the plaque. Parker passed away in 2023. Netflix covered his case in 2024. And every October, the city holds a festival marking the incident. Now, skeptics argue Higdon embellished details over time. They argue that hypnosis influenced memories. They argue that Parker initially said he was unconscious, but then he had a lot more to say afterwards. Media attention warped the narrative. All fair points, but even skeptics admit one thing. Law enforcement tried hard to break this case and they couldn't. And as Sheriff Glenn Ryder later said, if they were lying to me, they should be in Hollywood. Alright, so this one is my favorite, okay? This is my favorite abduction story so far because it is wild. Buckle in, okay? Okay, so we are in Wyoming, October 25th, 1974. Let's meet our boy Karl Higdon, 41 years old, oil rig foreman, married, 4 kids, former Air Force, just a regular dude who likes hunting elk. So boom, Karl heads into Medicine Bow National Forest after chatting with a friend who's also hunting in the area. It's late in the afternoon, it's quiet, peaceful, elk country. He spots a herd. He lines up his shot, pulls the trigger, and nothing happens the way it's supposed to, okay? No kickback, no loud bang. Instead, Karl claims he watches the bullet moving in slow motion, the Matrix style, drifting through the air like it's underwater before it just drops to the ground. Then he notices something else. The forest is dead silent. No birds, no wind, no insects, just creepy silence. Yo, that alone would have made me dip, okay? I don't even like silence in my house, okay? Every time my girl goes on a trip and I've got the crib to myself, I always make sure the TV is on, or I got YouTube playing on my phone. Bro, even when I'm going to sleep, I've got like a podcast playing, okay? There's always like music or a podcast on, because silence is just weird. And this man is out in the woods, so it's even creepier, okay? He bends down, picks up the bullet, and it's all mangled up like it hit something impossibly hard. And that's when he turns to his left and sees a figure step out of the tree line. Meet Ausso 1. This is where the story goes from weird hunting day to, what did you just say to me? Standing in front of Karl is a humanoid being about 6 foot tall, thin, yellowish skin, wearing what looks like a black scuba-style one-piece suit. Across his chest are 2 straps. Around its waist, a belt with a yellow 6-pointed star buckle. Now the face, we're talking no eyebrows, no chin, small eyes, a thin, lipless mouth with 3 big, blocky teeth, 2 rigid antennae sticking out his forehead, and instead of a right hand, my man has a drill. Not metaphorically, like an actual drill attachment. And the wildest part, the being looks at Karl and goes, in perfect English, "How are you?" Karl, trying to keep it together, just goes, "Pretty good." Which is the calmest response in human history. Like when I was researching this and read that, I burst out laughing like, come on, man. Although, to be fair, right, the more I think about it, if I was in that situation and some cartoonish alien entity stood in front of me and went, "Hey, what's good, fam? How you doing?" I'd probably be like, "Yeah, I'm all right, man. How you doing?" What else are you supposed to do? Ausso 1 then asks Karl if he's hungry. Before he even responds, a small packet floats through the air and stops in front of him. Inside are 4 pills. Karl hesitates, but ends up swallowing one. Immediately after, Karl notices something he somehow hadn't clocked yet. A large transparent cube sitting nearby. Not a saucer, not a disc, a cube. The alien casually invites him aboard, and Karl agrees, because at this point, what else are you gonna do? Next thing Karl knows, he's inside the craft. He notices the elk he was hunting are also on board, motionless, locked in what looks like a holding area. Then he realizes he's strapped into a seat, wrists and legs restrained, while the alien and another being place a wire-covered helmet over his head. The ship lifts off. Karl watches through the transparent walls as it hovers over his truck, and then the truck just vanishes. They shoot into space, and almost instantly they arrive at their destination. The alien tells Karl they've traveled 160,000 light miles, not light years, miles, to their planet. They land near a massive tower, towering over everything else, buzzing with light. Karl says it reminded him of something like the Space Needle. Through the walls of the craft, Karl claims he sees something even stranger. Humans. A middle-aged man, a teenage boy, 2 teenage girls, a young girl just hanging out, just chilling. The alien and Karl float, literally float, into the tower. No walking, no stairs, they just floating. That's just how they do. Karl is placed on a platform. A glass shield-shaped device slides out of the wall and scans him for several minutes. Then the alien delivers the verdict. You don't suit our purpose. Turns out, according to later hypnosis sessions, Karl had previously had a vasectomy, which allegedly disqualified him from whatever breeding program they were running, which is a crazy reason to get sent home early. My man was about to crack an alien and his vasectomy ruined it. My man was about to crack an alien and the vasectomy ruined it. Within seconds, Karl is back in the cube. The alien shows interest in his rifle, then returns it. He takes back the remaining pills, and then Karl is suddenly teleported back to Earth, where he immediately slides down a 9-foot embankment, injuring himself. For the next 3 miles, confused and injured, Karl walks down the road in a daze before climbing into the first truck he sees, which later turns out to be his truck, teleported miles away from where it was parked. No tire tracks, impossible terrain. He radios for help on the CB. By midnight, authorities find him. At the hospital, doctors notice something wild. Karl had extensive lung scarring from TB dating back to 1958. But after this encounter, gone. No scarring. Completely healed. It's one of those unexplained miracle type things. That, plus he had the deformed bullet, the missing time, the truck relocation, and other witnesses reported strange lights that same night, made this case an interesting one. Most of Karl's memory only came back later under hypnosis with Dr. Leo Sprinkle, a recurring name in his abduction stories. Karl stuck to his story for decades. He never got rich off it. He never chased fame. He passed all the polygraphs they put him under. He went back to work. He summed it perfectly later in life. It don't mean a hill of beans to me whether anybody believes it or not. I know what happened to me. Fair enough, Karl. Now listen, skeptics point out fairly that hypnosis can influence memories. They point out that sci-fi tropes were popping in the 70s and that details could have been unintentionally shaped. And all of that is valid, but even then, a cube ship, a drill hand, a bullet moving in slow motion before the Matrix came out, vanishing lung scars? This isn't your average abduction story. Boom. So it's 1975, Arizona. We're talking woodcutters, hard hats, pickup trucks, blue-collar dudes who look like they'd rather fight an alien than lie about one. Travis Walton is riding home with 6 co-workers after a long day logging in the forest. The sun is setting, everybody's tired, then they see it. A glowing disc hovering above the trees. At first, they're like, yo, what is that? Curiosity wins. Travis hops out the truck, already a bad decision, my guy, and he walks towards it. And then, bzz, a beam hits him square in the chest. His boys see him getting lifted off the ground and flung backwards like a ragdoll. They are panicking, freaking out. They hop into the truck and dip. And this is important. They don't go to the press. They don't wait it out and tell their story later. Nah, they go straight to the police and immediately they become the prime suspects in a murder case. Like what? Because realistically, right? Travis is gone. There's no body, there's no blood, no sign of him anywhere. And these dudes are standing there going, oh, it was an alien. Nah, man, y'all did something to him. And he's missing for 5 days. The cops interrogate the crew and they all tell the same story. They even take polygraph tests. And then on the 5th day, Travis comes back, disoriented, skinny, shook. He says he woke up on a table inside a spacecraft, surrounded by grays. He panicked, he fought them off, blacked out, and later woke up on a road miles away. Now here's the kicker. If this was a hoax, these men ruined their own lives. They lost jobs. They got ridiculed publicly. They received death threats. They went through years of harassment. And they still stuck to the story. All of them. Not one of them broke and went, actually, listen, we made this up. Enough. Nah, they all stuck to the story to this day. And again, medical exams showed mad weight loss, dehydration, and psychological trauma consistent with someone who's been missing for days. You can say mass hysteria, okay? We can say they're lying. You can say misidentification. But 6 grown men all agreeing to throw themselves into hell for a prank? I don't know, man. That's a heavy sell. On Friday, June 6, 1980, at around 3:30 p.m., Zigmund Adamski, a 56-year-old coal miner, leaves his home in Tingley, West Yorkshire. Polish-born, war survivor, married nearly 30 years to his lovely wife Lottie, who was wheelchair-bound and depended on him. He tells her he's popping to the local shops, a few hundred yards away to buy potatoes. He grabs his jacket, his wallet, some loose change. A neighbor sees him. They exchange a few words. Zigmund walks down the street and vanishes. No sightings, no CCTV, no witnesses. He just vanishes in broad daylight. 5 days gone. Police search, posters go up, nothing. And this part matters. Zigmund wasn't depressed. He wasn't running from anything. The very next day, he was meant to give away his goddaughter at her wedding. He had a speech prepared. He had a speech written. He was excited. He would never have just walked away. Then 5 days later, almost to the minute, the case takes a turn that still makes no sense. On June 11th at 3:45 p.m., a coal merchant's son arrives at his family's yard in Todmorden, a town 25 miles away that Zigmund had no connection to whatsoever. And sitting on top of a massive pile of coal is a body, face up, carefully positioned as if placed there. The yard had been checked earlier that morning. The body was not there then. Zigmund is still wearing his jacket and trousers, but his shirt is missing. His watch and wallet are gone, but there are no signs of a struggle. Now here's where it gets even stranger. Despite missing for 5 days, he has only 1 day's worth of beard growth. He hasn't been sleeping rough. He appears clean. He's been eating normally. He somehow had access to a place where he could wash and shave. And remember, this is a man with serious breathing problems. Climbing a wet, greasy coal pile in the rain would have been almost impossible for him. Yet, there he is, on top of the thing. The authorities noticed oval-shaped burn marks on the back of Zigmund's neck, shoulder, and behind his ear. Not cuts, not abrasions, burns. Worse, someone had applied a greenish gel-like ointment to them. Forensic scientists couldn't identify it. No hospital in the region had treated him. No doctor could explain what caused the burns or what that greenish gel-like ointment was. That night, a post-mortem is carried out. Time of death between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. that same day, meaning Zigmund had been dead only hours when found. The cause of death was a heart attack. But here's the thing. The coroner, James Turnbull, later said this was the most baffling case of his entire career because the heart attack explains how he died, but not where he'd been or what happened to him. Where was Zigmund Adamski for 5 days? Who shaved him? What caused the burns? What was that ointment? How did he get onto that coal pile unseen in daylight? And why that town? No answers, no suspects, no theory that fits cleanly. Now, this is where things get a little extraterrestrial. In the weeks surrounding Adamski's disappearance, West Yorkshire was experiencing a surge of UFO sightings, orange fireballs in the sky, strange lights. And then there's P.C. Allen Godfrey, one of the officers who attended Zigmund's body. 6 months later, November 1980, around 5 a.m., Godfrey is on a night patrol near the town. He sees a huge object hovering over the road, disc-shaped, spinning around, windows. His radio fails, his walkie-talkie fails. Next thing he knows, he's 100 yards further down the road, missing time. Under hypnosis, Godfrey later claims he was taken aboard a craft and examined. He never wanted their attention. Eventually, he left the police force, said the experience wrecked his family life. And suddenly, people start asking a question no one wants to ask. Was Zigmund Adamski taken? To be clear, there is no real proof that Zigmund Adamski was abducted by aliens. To be clear, there's no real proof that Zigmund Adamski was abducted by aliens. No craft, no witnesses, no smoking gun, but there is also no earthly explanation that satisfies the facts. Even the coroner later admitted, in 50 years' time, if we discover aliens have been visiting us and we didn't know it, that might give us an answer. That was his official stance. We don't know. So staying in the UK, on a foggy moor in West Yorkshire, December 1st, 1987. A retired British officer using the pseudonym Philip Spencer leaves his house early in the morning to walk across Ilkley Moor to visit his father-in-law. It's a route he's done loads of times before. Nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing to see here. But that morning, the moor is covered in thick fog, the kind that messes with your depth perception, your sense of direction, your head. He brings two things with him: a camera, because he likes taking photos of the landscape, and a compass, just in case the fog gets heavy. That detail is important, remember that. As he's walking uphill, he notices something ahead of him on the path. At first, he thinks it's just another person walking, whatever. Then he gets closer and realizes whatever this is, it's not human. He later describes it as about 4 feet tall, dark green in color, with long, thin arms and a head that's way too big for his body. And then it does something that really freaks him out. It raises its arm. Now, originally, Spencer says he thinks the creature is gesturing for him to stay back. So he does the most retired British cop thing ever. He pulls out his camera and takes a picture. That single photograph, blurry, grainy, becomes one of the most famous alleged alien images in UK history. The creature then turns and runs. Spencer follows it, but loses it in the fog. And that's when he sees something else, an alien ship rising silently from the moor. He describes it as a whitish, domed object made of 2 saucer-shaped sections stacked together. There's a low humming sound, and then it lifts into the sky and disappears. Shaken, Spencer abandons his original route and heads to the nearest village. And when he arrives, something is very wrong. According to his watch, he should have arrived around 8 a.m., but the village clock says 10 a.m. He's missing 2 hours. On top of that, the compass he brought with him is now pointing in the wrong direction. In the days that follow, Spencer contacts UFO researchers. The photo makes the news. Experts analyze it. Kodak says there's no evidence of tampering. Wildlife specialists say it's not any known animal. Other experts say the image is just simply too blurry to prove anything at all, which is kind of the entire problem with UFO evidence in a nutshell. Spencer doesn't profit from the story. He insists on staying anonymous. And then the dreams start. He's having vivid dreams, strange images, a feeling that something happened during those missing 2 hours and he just can't remember it. Eventually, he agrees to undergo regressive hypnosis. Alright, now quick disclaimer. I think I mentioned this before, but we need to really drill this point home. Hypnosis is controversial, okay? Some researchers swear by it, others say it creates false memories. So keep that in mind as we go on. Under hypnosis, Spencer's story changes. He now recalls that when he first saw the creature, he didn't just stand there. He was paralyzed, unable to move. He says he was lifted off the ground, pulled into the ship, and told telepathically to remain calm. Inside, he describes multiple green beings performing medical examinations on him, inserting instruments into his mouth and nose, and is shown a film depicting humanity's future. Nuclear explosions, environmental collapse, floods, famines, the same warning that shows up in abduction cases all over the world. He was shown a second film, but he refuses to describe it and talk about it. He claims the beings told him humanity isn't supposed to know what that film contains. Come on, bro! Describe it! Come on, man, tell us! I wanna know what was on that film, bro! After that, he's returned to Ilkley Moor, and according to this version of the events, the photograph wasn't taken before the abduction, it was taken after. And the creature in the photo, he now believes it wasn't warning him away, it was waving goodbye. Now, skeptics tear this case apart, man. They say the photo could have been a man in a suit or a cardboard cutout. They ask why he didn't photograph the ship. They point out the compasses are easy to damage, and they argue hypnosis doesn't really explain anything. Most of those are valid, you know what I'm saying? Like I get where they're coming from. But the whole, why didn't he photograph the ship? That's just lame. Cause bro, like when you're freaking out, when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't always think, hey, let me take a picture. Like that's not everyone's initial instinct. You know what I'm saying? So that makes sense to me. Like I've seen not UFOs, but I've seen like a fox. I've seen like a fox running, you know, across the road, and I'm thinking, yo, I should take a picture to show, you know, my girl when I get back to the crib, and I just forget. I just take in the moment, and I'm like, oh man, I should have taken a photo. So that for me is not like a gotcha moment. But everything else, it could be a man in a suit, you know what I'm saying? It could be a cardboard cutout. It's very grainy. All of that is fair, you know what I'm saying? Fair enough. But here's why the Ilkley Moor incident refuses to die. This happened in an area with decades of UFO sightings. It's close to Menwith Hill, one of the most important intelligence and surveillance sites in the UK. And the witness was a trained police officer, not someone chasing fame or clout. To this day, the Ilkley Moor photograph has never been 100% proven to be fake. And whether Philip Spencer encountered something truly extraordinary, or whether the fog and the human imagination was playing tricks on him, the Ilkley Moor incident remains one of the strangest and most unsettling alien encounters ever reported in the United Kingdom. November 30th, 1989, Lower Manhattan. And according to Linda Napolitano, that night changed everything. Linda claims she was asleep in her apartment when three beings appeared in her bedroom. Small, gray, large eyes. The usual description, our homies the Greys. She says she was instantly paralyzed, then lifted out of her bed and floated through a closed window. Not out the window, through it. Below her, the city is still alive. Cars, lights, the East River, and hovering outside, an alien ship. Here's where this case goes from weird to uncomfortable. Because Linda didn't just say she was taken, she said people saw it happen. The man who investigated Linda's case was Bud Hopkins, one of the biggest names in UFO research at the time. And Hopkins claimed that he'd interviewed over 20 people who'd witnessed Linda being taken from her apartment. Not one or two, 20, bro. people in nearby buildings, security personnel, and this is where it gets wild, including 2 men inside a limo who were supposedly guarding a foreign dignitary. According to Hopkins, these men later contacted him privately, terrified, claiming they had seen a woman floating in midair, escorted by non-human beings toward a craft hovering over Manhattan, and they were warned never to speak about it again. No names were released officially, no official statements, no documents, just their word. Like many abduction cases, much of Linda's story came out under hypnosis. And this is where the case starts to split people down the middle. Because under hypnosis, Linda described being examined aboard the craft, being communicated with telepathically, and experiencing repeated encounters over time. Hopkins believed her completely. He didn't hedge, he didn't push her, he didn't stay neutral, he went all in. And when you do that, when an investigator becomes emotionally invested, the case stops being about evidence, it stops being scientific, and it starts being about belief. Despite the claims of dozens of witnesses, not a single independently verified eyewitness ever came forward. The bodyguards were never identified, the foreign dignitary was never named, no CCTV, no radar data, nothing. Even within UFO research circles, people started backing away. Some researchers said hypnosis was being used as a story generator, not a truth machine. Others said the case was being protected from criticism. And slowly, quietly, Linda became one of the most divisive figures in abduction history. Here's the thing. If Linda's story is true, then alien abductions didn't just happen in the shadows. They could also happen in public, above one of the busiest cities on Earth, with witnesses. And that would change everything. But if it's not true, then this case represents the moment when alien abduction research low-key lost its footing, where belief outran proof, and stories became stronger than evidence. Boom. So it's September 27th, 1989, end of the Cold War, USSR cracking open under glasnost, the Iron Curtain's thinning, and then this happens. A group of kids are playing football in a park in Voronezh, a city in southern Russia. Normal day, good vibes, kids being kids, Then the sky lights up. They describe a pink glow, followed by a deep red spherical object about 3 meters wide, hovering silently above the park. The thing disappears, then comes back minutes later. According to the children, the object lands, and beings exit the craft. Not grays, not little green men. Now, one of them is described as being super tall, broad-shouldered, with 3 eyes, wearing bronze-colored boots, a disc-shaped device on his chest. And it's not alone. At some point during the encounter, one of the children, a 16-year-old boy, allegedly gets hit with some kind of ray or beam. And according to multiple accounts, he vanishes. Gone. Vanishes in thin air, bro. Not dead, not hurt, just not there anymore. When the object leaves, the boy reappears, alive, shaken, no clear explanation. That alone would have been enough to bury this story in most countries. But here's the twist. The Soviet media said, run it, okay? Let them know wagwan. This wasn't leaked to tabloids. This wasn't whispered on late night radio, on conspiracy theory forums. Nah, this was reported by TASS, the official Soviet state news agency. Let that sink in. They printed the kids' descriptions bar for bar. They quoted the scientists. They quoted the police. One local lieutenant even says he saw a body flying in the sky. The Interior Ministry publicly states that troops will be dispatched if the object returns. No debunking press tour, no mass hysteria headline, just, yeah, something happened, we're looking into it. Soviet scientists investigate the park. They claim there was disturbed soil, unusual rocks, and slight radiation readings. Once the story hits, it explodes. Hundreds of UFO reports flood in from across the USSR. Newspapers claim exclusive alien interviews. Western media flies in. An actual company starts selling UFO tourism trips to Voronezh. Imagine that, man. Capitalism, baby. So here's why the Voronezh case is important. It's children, but not just children. Adults confirm the lights in the sky. It's mass media, not fringe newsletters. It's state involvement, not whistleblowers. And it happens at a time where the USSR had nothing to gain by lying. No political message, no warning, no ideology. If anything, the whole thing makes them look a little goofy. It's just a deeply strange event that nobody fully explains. Was it mass suggestion, Cold War paranoia, misidentified tech? Or was it something genuinely unexplainable that slipped through during a moment of transparency and openness? Now listen, up until this point, alien abduction stories all live in the same uncomfortable gray area. Memories, hypnosis, missing time, trauma, no real physical proof. But in the early 1990s, one case crossed the line it maybe wasn't supposed to cross, because this time, something was left behind. That's right. Peter Khoury was born in Lebanon, moved to Australia as a kid, grew up, got married, had 2 children, completely normal life. But his encounters with whatever this was started early. At just 7 years old, Pete and a group of children climbed onto a rooftop and saw what he described as an egg-shaped craft hovering above them. The next thing they knew, they were back on the ground, no memory of how they got there. Which at the time gets filed away as a weird childhood thing, gets forgotten. Until 1988. Peter is a grown man lying in bed late at night when his body locks up completely. He can't move, can't speak, can't scream. It's like sleep paralysis on steroids, bro. Like the only thing my man can move are his eyes. He's trying to look around, freaking out. His heart's like boom, 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 boom. And then he feels something grab his ankles. A numb, crawling sensation moves up his body, right into his head. And in his mind, one thought keeps repeating, I'm not getting out of this. This is it. This is it. It's over. He's looking around, and that's when he clocks them. Small beings, 3 to 4 feet tall, with black wrinkled faces standing around his bed. They communicate with him on like a telepathic Professor X level. They tell him, hey, yo, chill, it's all good. And then instantly, it's like a switch goes off in his brain, and he's not scared anymore. Looking back on the event, it's hard for him to wrap his head around it, because one minute he's freaking out, having a full-blown panic attack, and the next minute, this wave of calmness and peace washes over him. The fear just shuts off, like someone flipped the switch inside him. 2 taller figures appear, thin, elongated, goldish yellow in color, with large black eyes. One of them inserts a needle into his head and he blacks out. Peter wakes up thinking, hey, maybe 10 minutes have gone by, but in reality, it was like 2 hours. And this time, there are physical marks. That experience made him dive headfirst into UFO research. He's going to support groups and eventually founds his own group to help others who claim similar encounters. But then 1992 happens. And this is where the story goes off the rails, bro. It's early in the morning, Peter comes home, he's feeling rough, injured from work. He lies down, and then he feels the bed dip, and he sees 2 women kneeling beside him. Not grays, not creatures, women. weird looking women. One appears super tall, pale, blonde, like the hair is almost white, like almost like creepy Nordic vibes, with oversized giant blue eyes and an unnaturally pointed chin. The other looks similar but kinda Asian. No spoken words, but Peter gets the sense the blonde one is in charge. She rubs her stomach and points to the sky. Bro, that's exactly what Antonio said the female alien he encountered did. Remember? Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy, man. So she grips him and pulls him towards her chest. She's super strong. He panics. He's freaking out. He's resisting. And in desperation, he bites her. Suddenly, they're gone. Vanished. Peter rushes to the bathroom, and that's when he finds it. Blonde, almost white hair. Not his wife's, wrapped around his body. He collects it, seals it, keeps it, and years later, it gets tested. And yo, check this out. The hair was real. It was real, bro. It underwent PCR DNA testing, the same kind used in criminal investigations. And the results? Human, but unusual. Genetically closest to a super rare East Asian lineage. Not matching Peter, not matching his wife, and with no obvious explanation of how we got there. So, it's not 100% proof of aliens, but also not easily dismissed. Skeptics argue the usual: sleep paralysis, hallucinations, stress, trauma, all of that. And sure, sleep paralysis can explain parts of this, but not all of it. Not the surgical style markings, not the missing time, and not the fact that something physical remained after the encounter. Alright, so let's say he made the whole thing up, alright? Like, how do we explain the hair, bro? Like, was he having an affair with some chick who just happened to have super rare East Asian lineage, and he decided to keep a lock of her hair, not knowing what the DNA results would say? Like, his description of the long, blonde, almost white-haired chick with the big blue eyes sounds eerily similar to the chick that our boy Antonio described. Alright, so let me ask you something. What happens when 60-plus children from different backgrounds, different ages, different belief systems all say the same thing? September 16th, 1994, Rua, Zimbabwe. A private school called Ariel School. About 250 students on campus that morning. Teachers are inside doing up a staff meeting. Kids are outside on morning break, running, playing, doing kid stuff. And then something appears in the sky. Multiple children report seeing a silver object moving erratically above the school. Not a plane, not a helicopter. It darts, stops, changes direction. Then it lands just beyond the school fence. And that's when the kids see him. These small beings about 3 to 4 feet tall, large heads, big black eyes. Some describe long black hair. Some say the beings were wearing tight, dark outfits. One or two come closer. One stands on top of the craft. And here's the key detail. They don't speak. They communicate mentally. The children later describe receiving images, not words, pictures flashing into their minds, visions of environmental destruction, pollution, technology overwhelming humanity, the planet being damaged, and the message over and over again was the same. Technology is bad. You're harming the earth. The dope thing about this is the kids don't react as a group. It's not like, hey, it's a prank, we planned this is what we're gonna do, you know what I'm saying? Nah, we got some kids running away screaming, freaking out. Some kids are just standing there frozen, deer in headlights vibes. Some are breaking down, crying, rocking back and forth. Some are just confused and in shock. They get interviewed separately and their stories line up. The school initially thinks, it's weird, but, maybe it's like mass hysteria, you know what I'm saying? Kids saw something weird, let's calm this down. But the reports don't fade. they intensify. Journalists show up, then psychologists. Then, this is important, Dr. John Mack. He was a Harvard psychiatrist, Pulitzer Prize winner, former head of the psychiatry department, and he takes this case deadly serious. He interviews the children individually, on camera, over multiple sessions, and his findings conclude there are no signs of fantasy collapse, no shared delusion patterns, no signs of adult suggestions. In fact, the younger children struggle to even find the words for what they experienced. They draw it instead. And the drawings are weird. Crafts shaped like discs, beings with oversized heads and eyes, figures standing on top of objects, lines connecting heads indicating telepathic communication. These are kids from rural Zimbabwe in the 90s. Their imagery is eerily consistent with some of the other abduction stories we've covered. One girl describes a being looking directly into her eyes. She says, "It felt like it knew me." Another kid says the message wasn't scary, just serious, like a warning, not an attack. Now, of course, skeptics are like, man, forget them kids. They say mass hysteria, cultural contamination, media influence. But here's the problem. The children were interviewed before the story went global, before the imagery became widespread, before anyone had anything to gain. And none of them, not one of them, ever tried to monetize it. No books, no tours, no clout chasing. Many of them actually spent years trying to forget it. Years later, as adults, some of these children are re-interviewed, and their stories, they haven't changed. Same beings, same craft, same message, same moment burned into their memory. John Mack eventually says that something still haunts him about this case. He doesn't claim aliens. He doesn't go, hey, this is proof. He simply goes, something happened here, and it cannot be easily explained away. So after all of this, decades of stories, different countries, different cultures, kids, farmers, police officers, blue-collar workers, respected community members, here's where we're left. No single case proves definitively that alien abductions are real, but no single explanation explains all of them away either. I'm not here to tell you what to believe, fam. I'm just here to say this. When thousands of ordinary people across nearly a century all describe variations of the same impossible experience, it's at least worth listening to. And whether aliens are real or these stories tell us more about the human mind, one thing's for sure, the mystery isn't going anywhere. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please give the video a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And until next time, you take care of yourself, fam, 'cause I love you.